Okay, we just built this thing, or I did. Just some thoughts about cleaning big Sanke kegs and even small corny kegs. Basically what this is just a keg washer. I can do 2 kegs at the same time, and I'll try to kind of go over this a little bit with you. Sorry, I don't have my microphone on today. It's kind of a last minute kind of fill you in what's going on here. First off is the first bin right here is full of Pbw, and there's a sump pump in here, and what it's doing is pumping into from this hose right here up into this valve, and where it's going from here is into this pipe, back over here, all the way around here into this Sanke keg. It's pushing water all the way up through the stem in the Sanke all the way to the top, and it's circulating Pbw. Basically, I'm going to do this for about 20 minutes. And also what it's doing is coming out the air line of that Sanke tap, back up into the second keg, and then coming back down through a line right up under here. It's hard to see, but there's the line right there, and it's pumping water back into the Pbw bin. This is all homemade. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a keg washer, so I built it myself. But so far it's working. We're just on the first step right here, and we'll continue to go on, and I'll show you each step as we go. But right now we're using the first valve, and that's the Pbw valve, from the tank into the kegs and back into the tank, and it's just recirculating Pbw, cleaning out the kegs. Probably just do this for about 20 minutes, and then we'll switch over to the next step. Okay, it's been 20 minutes, and basically what I'm doing is I'm letting all that Pbw in that bin flow out and just get rid of it. If I was going to do more kegs, I would just undo the Sanke taps and put 2 more kegs on there. This is good Pbw solution, but right now I'm only doing these 2, and we're just going to let it pump out all the Pbw out of the bin, and then I'll know it's circulated all of it a few times. The Pbw solution, it should feel slimy. This is 15-gallon tubs, and so you mix in the 3 tablespoons, and you'll get that slimy feeling. You can also use hot water. 150 degrees is probably the best temperature. I'm going to try to figure out a system that I can pump hot water from my kettles into this bin and get my water heated up to 150 degrees. That way I can clean even better. Pbw is best used at about 150 degrees. So we'll pump it through at 150 degrees next time, but this time it's just kind of a demonstration. Okay, what we got going on now is we're going to turn off our Pbw valve, turn on our water valve. It's just a hose connected to the hose outlet, and now it's flushing out my Pbw. We're going to let this run probably about 10 minutes, let it flush all that Pbw out of the keg or any debris or anything else that we might have in there. Again, it's just 2 Sanke taps, and it's running from one keg to another, and we're just flushing it out, and that's how it's going to work. We're going to let this sit and flush for 10 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next step. Pretty easy. I mean, I thought it was going to be harder to make one of these things, but the reality of it is I figured it out. There's a couple things I want to change on it, just slight modifications to make this a little easier, plus to keep some stuff out of the bins. I don't want stuff dropping in the bins like dirt or grime, specifically the sanitation bin. This is going to get stuff in it. The Pbw bin is going to get stuff in it from the kegs, you know, shrub and anything else that might be stuck in these kegs. But the key is to get it so it's spraying on the top of the kegs, and it is, and we're just rinsing them out. And that's what we're going to do. All right, we'll see you in about 10 minutes. Okay, what we've done now is now we're flowing some sanitizer. I only have 1 pump right now. I've got to buy another one. So we're using the Pbw valve to pump sanitizer through these kegs. As you can tell, it's pumping out. I'm waiting for it to kind of bubble up to push some of this water out. I can hear it going. Once we see some foam and stuff coming out, we'll put the valve back in, this hose back into the bin. I think I have a better idea for this. When I want to flow out, when I make a longer hose, I'll maybe put a 3-way valve or something in, so I don't have to keep moving the hose around. I just don't want. I want to make this as simple as possible. So may go ahead and get a valve, 3-way valve, and be able to pump. Yeah, you can see that there's foam, water coming out. That means the sanitizer's coming out. So we're gonna stick this right back in to the bin. Got to figure a little bit better system, maybe some different bins. I don't know. Don't really need that much water, but it's flowing back through. Sanitizer's mixing in, and now I'm sanitizing my kegs. So I haven't had to do anything but move some stuff around. And when I get my other pump, I should be able to not to do all this moving around and just turn some valves. But it's working fine. So we're in step 3 of 4 steps to do our kegs. Now, the thing is that I need to get CO2 back into these kegs, and that's what this line is for. So when we get to that stage, I'll show you how we're going to kind of play that out. First, we got to push all the sanitizer out. You don't necessarily leave sanitizer. You have to. You have to. It's a, I'd rather leave sanitizer in a keg than just plain water, or leave them empty without any CO2 in them. But they get a little heavy to move around, so I was kind of wanting to do this system just to make sure that I have these kegs cleaned out without actually having to open them up every time and clean them out. And this is what's going to do it. And it's going to keep my kegs clean. I'm not saying you don't have to go back every once in a while. Go into your kegs, maybe have a couple batches, 2 or 3 batches, maybe 4, and take a look inside your keg and make sure everything's okay. It's clean, it's sanitized. But this system should work really well to do what I need it to do, and it seems to be. I'm a little tired. Our system's working fine. The only thing I need is a pump, another pump. I know there's kind of a glare behind me, but normally I would open this valve right here for my sanitizer, and it attaches to this hose, which connects to a pump. I don't have that pump yet, so I'm using my Pbw pump after I flushed it, and basically I had to move my Pbw pump over into my sanitizing solution. That won't happen once I get this done. Also see a couple little leaks that I'm going to take care of, probably because I didn't tighten them down enough, or I didn't put enough tape on them. So I'll fix all that here in a little while. But it seems to be running fine. We've got sanitizing solution running through it right now. That's what's going into this hose. We're using the same hose. I'm starting to think I need like a 3-way valve, or a couple different valves that I can turn on and off for wastewater. At least to change direction. I don't like moving the hose around. So what I'm probably going to do is get a couple of valves and change that out. Won't be that big of a deal. Also, I need to create some sort of cover for these things that fit on there better. I went with a little bit, maybe too large of a bin. I had to cut them down. I want to be able to keep those things secure. If you got any ideas, throw them out there. I'm thinking of maybe some buckets and stuff that recirculate in the bucket and just go into a lid, but we'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Thing is, there's a lot of hoses and stuff back here. It's just kind of a mess. I'm gonna try to clean that up a little bit. Specifically, when I finally get my other bucket, I'll be able to clean that stuff up. But this is the 3rd step, sanitizing step. We're running sanitizer through, just recirculating sanitizer through the keg. And this is the 3rd step of number 4 steps. And 4th step is purging the kegs of all the sanitizer solution, or at least as much as we can. And then go ahead and fill them up with CO2. Oh, I'm sorry, then there's 5 steps, not 4, 5. We're going to purge it with regular air, and then we're going to move it over to CO2. We don't want to use CO2 to purge it. It just takes a lot of CO2. So we use regular air, small compressor, and we'll purge the system. Okay, I'll see you in a bit once this is sanitized through and rolled through a few times. Probably give it a good dosing, 10 minutes or so, and we'll move on from there. But right now, I think it's pretty much recirced all the way through. So, but I'll see you in a bit. We'll do the purging. Okay, we've come to that step where we're turning off the sanitizer, and again, normally it would be over on this valve, but I have to get another pump. Probably get it in the next couple days. Maybe I'll make another video of this. I don't know. We'll see. I want to do it with a mic, so I'll try to be a little bit more specific and get all the bugs worked out. I guess I probably really shouldn't be making a video when the bugs aren't worked out. Okay, well, all I have to do is my air hose right here. I just got my shooter. I put it at 25 psi. You don't want to go much more than that. These kegs are rated for about 30 psi only, so you want to go just under 30 psi. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to attach my air hose. I'm going to get something to make this a little better too. A lot better, actually. But it works pretty good. It just sits on there. I'm going to turn the valve, and what I'm going to do is actually put two valves in, one for air, one for CO2. This one's set up for the CO2, and I'm kind of making this kind of easy. There's a couple, as I said, I got a couple things I still got to buy. All right, I've shut all my valves off. No hoses are attached to these. The Sankes are still open, and what I'm doing is I'm just going to pressurize them with, as you can tell, the hose right here is still leaking out. I'm going to pressurize the keg. And what's going to do is I'm pressurizing that first keg through this valve, through the hose, up into here. And I can hear the air going in. And you can see it's pressing out a little bit stronger. And what we're doing is we're flushing out all that CO2 with air. Oops, got to turn my compressor on, so it might get a little loud. Sanitizer will push out of this keg and into this, and then that sanitizer will push out on this hose right here, and it'll dry out the keg. I want to do a better thing right here. Definitely through my valve. You can tell I do have an air leak. You gotta put some more tape on that. So there's a few things still need to be done with this system, but right now it's basically working. It's actually working really well. The concept is a system that can be improved. And I will. First time I ever built one of these things. You can tell, you see in the hose, you're looking at the hose, see how much it's pressing out right now. It's pushing out that water pretty good. Again, we're pressurizing the kegs right now. We're just going to let this thing push out. And I'm not turning off the video. I'll splice it later, but I want to make sure you see what actually happens. As I said, Mavericks likes to do things on their own. I mean, we like to build our own stuff. We're breaking the mold. We're trying to cut down on costs. Everybody in the brewing world says it costs a fortune for all this stuff, and it does. I've looked up the prices. To get a commercial one of these is not cheap. But it's very simple design, so it's very easy to build. And as long as I can build it, hey, we're going to build it. We're going to save some money. That way I can pass that along to my customers too. Anytime I can put something together that works and doesn't increase my cost, make it happen. Now you can see that it's flowing out. We're going to let it keep flowing out until all that sanitizer comes out, at least as much as possible. And air's cheap, so we'll keep pushing that out. As much as we can. We want to flush out as much of that sanitizer as we can. Alright, now the keg's all pushed out, all the sanitizer's out of the keg now. So what we're going to do, shut that valve off, take off our hose here. I'm going to go get the CO2 tank, and then I'm going to pressurize these things with CO2. We're at that stage where I'm going to purge out all the air out of the keg. I've turned on my CO2 tank. I got my valve hooked in. I got about 30 psi on there, just under 30 psi. I'm going to go ahead and open up the keg, and we're going to start seeing air come out. Now I'm just going to let it pressurize. Pushing all that air out. I'm going to let it run for a little bit here, not long. I'm just trying to get all that air pushed out, and that's what's doing right now. Alright, I smell CO2. It's got a different smell than air. Turned it off. And what I'm going to do is pull these off. Just the valves. And now they're full of CO2. But they're full of CO2. They're sanitized. They're full of CO2. They're sanitized. And as you can tell, they're basically empty, and they're ready to go. All right, and that's about it. That's how you do this thing. And now that they're done, they're clean. And when I want to put beer in them and just purge the CO2, I can pump right in using a Sanke tap. I can pump right from the fermenter into the keg, or I can use my hose, and I do it that way too. So the less exposed to air my beer is, the better. And again, now that they're purged with CO2, I can click on a Sanke tap on the top of this thing with an open ball and an open valve. And what I do is I fill in through, just like I do here, fill in through the fill, and the CO2 will come out the side. I also have a counter that tells me exactly how much beer is going into the keg, so I know exactly how much beer is in each keg, and I can mark it on the side so I know. But that's it. It's basically the system. Nothing to it, really. A couple minor tweaks here and there, and it'll be efficient, and I don't have to do a lot of moving around and things like that. So I think I'm going to get different bins. I think I'm going to make them smaller because I want them to fit in there, and I want to be able to put a lid on them. So that's stuff we're going to be doing here in a little while. All right, we'll see you next time on Mavericks Brewing.